Hey there, Rebels. Welcome back to another weekly reading. I am going to be using, as always, the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck. This is by Alana Fairchild, and we are going to be getting a reading today to give us information on our path ahead. Now, if you've been following the series, then you know that this is for people who are on their awakening and their spiritual ascension journey. I am going to be giving you the message of the card that I pull intuitively, and my intent, as always, is that this message is going to find you when you need it, and that it is going to have information for you that is easy for you to understand, process, and integrate as you move forward through your week. Now, this is a timeless message meant for you when you need it, but I am recording this video on Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. We just got through the 4-4 portal yesterday, and I felt like the energies were very strong, very helpful, and powerful in manifesting and making you feel like you could really go after what you wanted. We do have the full moon in Libra coming up tonight, going into tomorrow, so that is something that we have going on astrologically as well. And today's card is After the Storm. And I feel like if you look at this, obviously there's a very bright yellow gold sun, and gold is seen as very valuable. So light, the sun, is seen as very valuable because we cannot have life without it. But for me, it's really illuminating behind him, showing that he's still flying through part of the storm, right? So maybe the worst part of the storm is over, and now we're looking into afterwards. What happens when you have to rebuild after a tornado, after a snowstorm? You still have to clear debris, right? You still have to make sure there's pathways and that you still have everything you need. But it definitely is going into a rebuilding phase, whereas before we were just hunkering down trying to weather the storm. And you can see that he is carrying something in his talons. It looks similar to a Merkaba, honestly, but I can't tell quite what's inside it. It looks like it is just like a gold object. I get Merkaba feelings from it, which of course is your energetic light body. But if you take a look, if I can get it to focus, at the owl's eyes. There we go. Sorry. Clearly, I'm too shaky to be good at this. Yeah, I don't know if I can get it to come back in. Anyways, to me, he looks very pensive. He looks very, I don't want to say heartbroken, but he does look very just somber, right? So this storm was something that he possibly saw a lot of damage. He possibly lost people that he loved or lost his home. And he is now going to be in the phase of the rebuild. But to me, when you look at his eyes, it really gives you a sense of acceptance of what he has seen and what he has weathered, and determination to move forward, because you don't really have another choice but to move forward. You can stay and you can wallow and you can be upset at everything you lost. And I feel like if we're talking about as a human experience, that is a very important aspect of healing, is sitting with the pain, sitting with how you feel, and just allowing those emotions of loss, those emotions of discomfort to be with you, and recognize and acknowledge them, right? You don't want to rush and push it to the bottom, push it down and just charge on. You do need to have some space in there, some time in there for you to take stock of what you lost in the storm, right? Take stock of how things have changed for you now after you've gone through this large whatever. And overall, for a collective, I really feel like this is, hey, we're in the midst of it, right? I think if you're watching this in real time, you can tell that shit's going on in the world, shit that doesn't have to be happening. There's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of lies and underhanded moves that are being made against the people by the government, by those in charge. And I don't mean just in the US, I mean overall as a world, because if you look at it, um, or for me, the way I have noticed and learned things to be is that we may be different countries, but the people who own the countries are still the same. Okay, so we're still facing different fears and facing those same battles, regardless of what country you are living in. And this is telling me that, hey, after we get through this, because we're in the midst of it now, we're doing the hard stuff now. We are in the storm now where, you know, there's food shortages. The banks are, are collapsing. The medical field is becoming obvious, like how much was done over the past several years due to a certain thing that caused a lot of damage, that caused a lot of harm, that caused a lot of fear, and that fear then turned into money for the people that wanted it to turn into money. And so when you look at all of that as a whole, we're not through it yet, right? We're still in the midst of all of these past several years' choices. We're still sitting with the consequences of those choices that people felt they had to make for their livelihood or their family or whatnot. But this is saying, yes, we are in the storm. We are going to be through the storm. It may still get worse before it gets better, depending on where you're at. But it's time to focus on after the storm. It's time to focus on what is our plan going to be to rebuild afterwards? What do we need to take into account for public, society, the collective? What if everything falls? What is the next step, right? Obviously, there's education systems that will still need to have some sort of base in society. Medical, there will still need to be a base for that service in society, right? Law, justice, the court system, all of it, there's going to be a need for that service. Just because the systems that are running it now are negligent and hateful towards the people they're supposed to be serving, it doesn't deny the fact that that is a need for us as humans. So, afterwards, when things go down, when we are rebuilding, when you have realized that the way a system is going is not the way that you want to live your life, that is no longer in alignment with your values, what are you going to do after that realization has hit you and settled and you've integrated it? You have to have a plan of action to move forward. You can't just say, okay, the school system doesn't work for me anymore, so I'm pulling my kids from school. That's fine. You have the right to do so. But how are you going to continue to educate your children? I think taking it into your own hands is the best option, because then you know exactly what they're being taught. I've seen way too many videos of parents having board meetings with children because the assignments that they are giving these children are sexual in nature at ages where that's not appropriate. I've seen other things where there's just bullying. So I understand the need to step away from the school system, but you still have to have a plan in place, or you still have to devise a way that you are going to educate your child so that they are still going to be a competent and, um, I don't want to say helpful. I mean, I do want to say helpful, but I don't mean it in the way of like obedience, like they're a good worker because you educated them. I mean, in a way that they feel confident and independent with the knowledge that you have given them to go out in the world and do the good that they feel in their heart. And I can't think of a word that would make it easier and shorter than that. If you decide that you no longer trust doctors because you've had medical issues since you took the you know what, or you just don't trust them because every time you go, they want to test you for something that you know you don't have, stuff like that, that's great. It's excellent once you get to that realization. But after you've gotten to the realization that you don't want to be a part of the medical community, that you no longer trust or have faith in a provider, a doctor, to care for you the best of not only his ability, but for the best outcome for your health personally, and not just getting him money because he has you on prescriptions and all that. That's great once you realize that. It's not easy to integrate that though, because now you're going to have to start educating yourself on, okay, what can I use at home? What can I buy at a local natural store that will help me to take care of this issue or be prepared when I don't feel well, when I feel like I have the flu? What can I take? What do I have? What can I make or grow that will help me to basically essentially be your own doctor? Because that's really the path that we're going down, right? Depending on how far out your values are telling you to step away from the system to um, live in alignment with what feels most natural and holistic to you, you're going to have to take some major accountability. And that may be the storm that you're facing, right? Maybe it's not the storm of corruption or the storm of betrayal. Maybe it's none of that. Maybe you always knew that was there, but now you're realizing that you can't trust it. So you're going to have to step up and be the one to figure things out for yourself. And then that can be a whole nother storm on its own, because knowing that that accountability then falls back to you to take care of not only you, but your children and ensure that they still are able to live happy, healthy lives is huge. But it's something that we've always dealt with. If you think back to your ancestors, it wasn't even a thought because they knew it was on them. You know, we've gotten so displaced in society with immediate gratification and shifting the blame and shifting the responsibility to someone else because you trust a person in authority. And when it falls, you think that you don't have to look back at yourself to see what you did wrong. You can blame that person because they were wrong. But that's not how it is. It always falls back to you. Either you're making the direct decisions and taking the actions as you feel led, or you are following someone else. But in the end, it comes down to you. You are the one who chose to follow someone else, who chose to trust someone else over your own best interests, over what you may have felt on the inside. And that could be a storm, right? Because nobody wants to sit with the realization that they are the ones responsible for everything that's happened in their life. And I know there are certain instances and circumstances with more traumatic events where that is not just a black and white label that's appropriate to put on some situations. But once you are at the stage of awakening that I'm assuming you're at because you're watching this video, that realization that you are the one that has to save yourself, that you are the one who you've been waiting on to figure this out and change the world, it's huge. And maybe that's the storm you're going through. And if that's the case, then I'm sending you lots of hugs because it's not easy. But now, how are we moving forward after the storm? How are we moving forward now that we are in that realization? You need to have some basic steps and you need to have some basic supplies, that are going to help you feel, that you are prepared, that you have what you need to tackle any challenge that comes your way. And one of the best things that you can do is to educate yourself. So if you have decided that you no longer trust the school system, then pull your children out, create a way that you are able to work from home or work for yourself, but also still educate your children. And it doesn't have to be sitting down in front of workbooks of things for them to learn and work through. Education is so important in the day-to-day of our lives, which is something that people don't get in the school system. So my 4-year-old, he knows how to pump gas. Will I trust him to do it by himself? No, I'm still going to be there to help him. But he understands when we pull up how it works, where the lever is, which gas we pick, how we put it in, why it stops. He understands all of that, right? And that's not something he needs. But if he knows it now, how easy is it going to be for him down the road? Okay. Laundry, being able for your children to wash and dry and take care of their own clothing items is essential. Knowing how to repair them with needle and thread is even better. Maybe you can teach them how to make, older children, of course, natural cleaners with baking soda and vinegar. There are so many things that you can use to educate your children that aren't taught in schools, that we have been thought of, um, that we've kind of been trained to think that school is the only place you get an education, and that's not the case. Taxes, right? As an adult, wouldn't it have been nice if there was a school that explained taxes and how to do them and how to get write offs and how to beat the system essentially? But they don't. And it's something that you have to learn on your own. But that is knowledge that you can pass on to your older children so they understand the system if they choose to file taxes, how that works, right? If you decide to be a sovereign being and you get your trust from the government and you get your essential denomination status stating that you are a sovereign being, how did you do it? Can you walk your children through it if you didn't do that for them? Or if you have a relative who's interested in the life that you're living, can you help them get where you are? These are all forms of education that you can use as a mean to educate your child instead of having them sit in front of a workbook doing multiplication. Because you can teach multiplication, addition, and subtraction, all of that when you go to the store to buy your things or when you're cooking or making things at home. Medical. All right, your storm was you don't trust the medical facility or the medical establishment, which a lot of us don't anymore. Okay, how are you going to take care of yourself? How are you going to ensure that your health stays where you need it to stay for you to do and live and be and help your children and your spouse? Well, you need to educate yourself, right? What herbs can you grow in your garden that you can then harvest and turn into tinctures or turn into teas or, turn into salves? What kind of theory do you even follow anymore? Do you follow germ theory or do you follow terrain theory? These are topics that you should research so you know. And then once you know what feels right to you, what feels aligned to you, what resonates with you, then use that information to then develop your plan of attack and have the supplies, and the skills, CPR, basic suturing, things like this that will help you if you're no longer going to rely on the establishment. So I feel like those are two big topics that people are possibly looking at. And if you're getting to that point, or if you're finally on, the end of your storm, of your awakening journey, and now you're thinking, okay, I realize what no longer resonates me of the life I have been living, but now what? Welcome. We're all trying to figure it out together. And I assure you that as soon as you have it figured out, there are new things and new opportunities and new, lessons that you can learn to help further you. This is not, like anything, a one and done situation. This is something that you will get through in waves that you will get through, as you essentially level up on certain things. So, if you're reaching the end of your storm and you're trying to figure out what, I would say that going within and seeking your answers there is one of the most powerful ways for you to feel confident and clear with the path and the, um, decisions that you are making. Um, Obviously, morning meditation service, and the reason why I say morning is because you can get to it when you're rested, when you haven't been bombarded by all of these other things that are needed of you. But another, technique that I really love is journaling. Journaling is a great way to sit down and put some of your thoughts down on paper so that you can look at them more objectively. And you can set up different roles for when you journal. You don't have to just open up and be like, Dear Diary, today was da, da, da. You don't have to do that. You can prompt yourself with certain questions to really get the answer and the response that is coming from the deepest part of you. And so you have to be willing to do this, without judgment on yourself, right? So create a safe space for yourself so that way you can get in touch and find out what really matters to you, especially if you're in the midst of the storm and you're fighting your way through. Okay, take some time to get centered and focus on you. What feels good to you? What would your ideal life look like? And you can be as specific and detailed as you want, or you could just have a general statement and know that the details will be filled in later. But figure out what it is, connect to yourself for that guidance, for that um, reassurance and divine download of your next steps, of your path forward. And just know that you are supported and you are loved, and that you have a whole team in the spirit realm of your ancestors, of your guides, of your angels that want to see you happy, that want to see you make the choices that lead to your growth. And it's uncomfortable and it makes you want to scream because you just feel like you don't know why or how you would, or if you should even be following this path. But when you get through that, there is clarity on the other side, and there are rewards for being brave and being bold and courageous and taking those steps. So I hope that you are feeling the love. I hope that you are feeling supported. And if you're not, then take some time to settle in, get connected, and ask for that help, right? You do have to ask for help from your team. They are there watching you and they are there rooting for you. But if you want them to intervene on your behalf, then you need to ask for that help. And something as simple as, I am asking for clarity, I am asking for guidance. Please show me what my next steps can be. Please intervene on my behalf and bring to me blessings and knowledge that I need as I move forward. It's simple, it doesn't have to be ornate. You don't have to do this big, grandiose, um, you know, show for them. Something that is heartfelt will resonate with them. So I hope that this helps you. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you and give you some guidance if you need it. I do feel like we all truly know, but sometimes it does help to have somebody point you in the right direction and give you some help on your path. That is what I am called to do here in this lifetime. So if you'd like to get connected with me for any of my intuitive services or any of my guidance, you can get to my website at www.soulfulrebellion.co. Intuitive services is where all of my readings and perspective shifts are listed. I also have a shop, and I do have physical items like journals because I do feel they're important, available for purchase if you are needing something like that. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and we will talk soon. Bye, y'all.